Hey there, gamers! My name's Tommy,
My name's Aaron.
and welcome to the Super Pod Saga, the podcast where Aaron and I are on an endless quest, a never ending quest to discuss every single video game topic that anyone has ever thought of.
It just doesn't end. It's not. It doesn't end.
This is episode 4 or 5, and yeah, we're still going strong. And today's topic is going to be video game controllers. We're gonna talk about the good, the bad, the weird. Here's how. Aaron, you've used video game controllers, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we'll find out, I guess, throughout today. What I want to do is just basically like start at the earliest controllers I've touched and go through all the way to the present, and we're going to talk about all the controllers. We can take some pit stops and talk about like third party ones if you want to, or like really weird ones. That's fine. But I have opinions about controllers and what makes them good and what makes them bad, and we're gonna talk about them all. Yeah. Yeah, right? Sound
Yeah.
good?
Let's do it. I have some really like goofy and like crappy ones written down too.
Yes, you just interject when we get to that time period. Just be like, dude, stop
Okay.
talking right now. Shut up.
Shut the hell up.
The first console slash controller that I remember playing was the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Did you ever play anything before that, like the ColecoVision or the Atari or any of those?
I I did play some Atari, like for sure.
Tell me about the controller.
Not much to it. It's just a stick and a button.
And how was the stick moving? How was the stick? Where was the button? How was it? Did you hold the stick with your right hand and use your left thumb to hit the button, or is it the other way around?
You can do it if you want to that way. I'm
Oh,
left-handed, so I did just stick with my left hand and then
you are
button was right.
left-handed.
Yeah, I'm one of those scum.
What a mess.
I know, but I remember playing a bunch of Joust and Pitfall, and I mean, yeah, it seemed to work pretty well. It was kind of odd to play like like a side scroller with that big old joystick, but it worked at the
Uh,
time.
Later in my life, I did play an Atari, and we had the most fun playing basketball, and we could never figure the controls out because there's only one button. So like your one button does pass and shoot and steal, and so you could like never do what you wanted to do, but it was still fun.
Hell yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
Did you ever have the NES or play an actual Nintendo Entertainment System?
Hell yeah, I did. That was the first. Oh, that was the first console I ever played, and then I have actually like two in my basement right now. So
Nice,
hell yeah.
nice. So what are your thoughts on the controller?
Yeah, simple as could be, A, B, all the directions, especially for like Super Mario Bros. 3. It's everything you need right there in one little convenient rectangle.
I disagree. It's garbage. I hate the Nintendo controller, the NES
Really?
controller. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's just a big square rectangle, so you got the corners jabbing into your hands the whole time. The button feel and the D-pad, that's good. Those are good. But why is the start and select those little rubbery nubs? Why are they little rubber nubs?
I mean, they also made they made like an upgraded one later on called like the dog bone, 'cause it was kind of shape in the shape of like a dog bone, kind of like the SNES, but
Excuse
that
me?
was a
I
lot
gotta look
better
this
for
up.
sure.
I gotta look this up. Oh yeah, that looks
Yeah, look at
exactly like a Super Nintendo controller.
yeah,
Mm.
that was a pretty good one too.
That looks better. That looks much better. I've never seen that, but that would be. It's even got some of them even have raised. It's raised up for the AB. That's cool.
Rubbery nubs.
Little rubbery nubs.
Yeah.
Then it was the Super Nintendo controller, which we never had, but I have played games on it, and I have the Super Nintendo Mini, which I played like 4 times, and definitely an improvement over the NES, but I don't like those shoulder buttons, the R and L. I forget they're there.
Oh yeah, I do too. I played a lot of those at my cousin's house. I never owned one myself either, but yeah, I remember those. I remember being so used to the original NES with just A and B, having to get used to those other two buttons on there. I was like, what the hell am I gonna do with these? You can do more than just jump and select. What the hell?
Yeah, I never remembered that they were there because they don't. I never hold the controller with my fingers on those buttons. I still hold it with my fingers underneath. So like,
Yeah.
if there's a game that uses it, I'm effed. I can't do it. Well, otherwise, it's great that they have four face buttons. I like the colors. It's a good one.
I think no, I'm thinking of something different. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. Here is where I have a huge blind spot in my gaming history. I have almost never played those early Sega consoles, like the Genesis and the what have you. I can't even think of what the other ones are called.
And the Saturn?
Yeah, the Saturn. There we go. Did you ever play those or touch those controllers?
Hell yeah. The Genesis one I thought was really sweet because it was like an almost moon shape, but it was like a little bit fatter. So it sat in your hand really well, and you kind of like had something. Sounds dumb, but you had something to rest your fingers on.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, and then it had so many buttons on it too. But like a lot of games made use of all those different buttons, because it was like ABC and then XY and then like whatever the hell else. But
yeah, what is that last one? I'm trying to see even, and oh, it's XYZ. Okay.
Yeah.
ABC XYZ. Interesting. And then what was the Saturn controller? Let me take a look at that bad boy.
Saturn was I
it's
think
pretty
it
much
was
the
the
same.
redone one that was awesome. Yeah.
It just looks more modern, except for the weird 3D. Have you seen the Sega Saturn 3D controller?
I'm looking it up right now.
It's a giant circle. It's like you're holding a disc, and it's got a stick up above, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is on the bottom. Is that just a giant
It's just
start
a big old
button?
pancake.
We need to talk about start and select buttons, because what does that even mean? Like, it's so wild that those lasted for so long. Like, start is the button that pauses the game, which, interesting enough. Or like it'd be press start to start the game. And then select used to be the thing that you would go to, like, go through menu options. It would be the button to select the menu options, and eventually they just changed it to, like, why don't you just use the D-pad to go up and down? Why would you hit to select to cycle through it? What a weird thing, thinking back about it.
Yeah, and then start. It always used to be, press start to start the game, but I wonder when the hell it was that they started doing press A to start, or like press any button to begin. Because then I guess the start button is still there to pause and stuff, but it's not really the start button anymore. It's more of just like hit generic button.
Three-line button or hamburger button. I see a lot of people call it the hamburger button. We'll get to that later though, because that's in future controllers.
Another good controller around this time period was the just look up the Neo Geo controller. I love that little bastard.
Neo
Little
Geo.
like control pad.
Couldn't even tell you what I'm going to. I couldn't. Let's see. Oh, little
Neo Geo mini pad.
A B C D, a D button.
Yeah, dude.
Madness.
Little for the actual like Neo Geo AES, the little thumbstick actually like was like kind of clicky, like an arcade like it was like an arcade joystick, but it was a little thumbstick and it clicked like that, so it was like super responsive and it was sweet.
Is it more of a sliding stick, or is it still a thumbstick? It's really short.
It's still just a thumbstick, but
okay.
Yeah, it's short.
Okay, interesting. A B C D. I don't know how I feel about that, but it looks neat. Still got the start and select buttons. Does it have shoulder buttons?
No, it does not.
Whoa.
It was before that time. Oh.
Next up for me was the PlayStation 1 controller, and the PlayStation was like the first one that I played a ton of. And did you ever have a PlayStation?
Hell yeah, I did. That's how I first came out with Final Fantasy.
Did you have the controller with the sticks or without?
I had one of both, I'm pretty sure. I had one like just a normal one, and then I had one with the DualShock, which had the two sticks.
Yeah, we obviously used the one with the sticks because it's cooler, and then you'd pull out the one without, and you're like, what is this? It just feels like so thin and lifeless.
Yep, this is the Player 2 controller.
Yeah, exactly. For those that don't know, the first PlayStation controller didn't have sticks. It only had a D-pad. X, circle. Do you say X or cross?
I always say X. Cross
Yeah,
is
so X
weird.
too. Cross is weird because I think of cross as like an up, down, left, right shape. I don't think of a
Yeah, like a
cross.
Jesus cross or a
Yeah,
crucifix.
exactly. Yeah, because we're good Christian boys.
We only consume good Christian media, such as Doom.
Yeah, dude, I've never. No, I did play like 30 seconds of Doom because they added 4K ray tracing on the Series X, and I was like, I'm gonna take a look to see what it looks like. And I played through a bit of the first level and was like, all right, that's enough scary game for now. I'm gonna be
Scary game.
done. At the
Oh
same
no.
time, or
I
near
was
the
gonna,
same time, what?
I was gonna add too. I think like the original DualShock PS1, I think was like the probably what really like set the precedent for the next generations with
Yeah,
using the two sticks, minus the
absolutely.
Dreamcast that only had one for some reason.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to the Dreamcast. Don't you worry. But yeah, I guess yeah, the PlayStation controller was the first modern one with the two sticks, four buttons, D-pad, and then back
And
triggers
then all the
and
shoulder buttons.
yep, all the shoulder buttons. What did the analog button do on the PlayStation controller?
Oh yeah, so on the DualShock controller,
Yeah.
if you push that button, and it lights up, that means that you cannot use the sticks. You can just use the D-pad, and then if you press, basically it lets you use the sticks or not, pretty much.
What? Why? Why would you
You
need a
you
button
can
to
just
turn that off and on? Like,
I know for some early say like side scrollers or like something where you really need an analog control, the sticks would just really mess you up. Like if you remember in horror games where they had like before you could actually move the camera in all directions, you had those like still frames or not still frames. You basically were just like you would move forward and then the camera would like jut into like some weird awkward angle and you'd be stuck like, oh, the camera's all goofed up. I'm gonna go backwards because I'm still holding forward or whatever. If
that's
that makes any
right.
sense at all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right, because back then, like that was about the time that you could start controlling the camera. Before then, you couldn't really control the camera, not like you can now. And that reminds me, did you ever have you seen this kind of popped up on the internet a few years ago? The review for Alien Resurrection for the PlayStation from 2000. It was one of the first games
Mhm.
that used the stick to move the camera.
Oh, I have not. What was
Okay,
that
let me.
about?
It's just one sentence, and it's the reviewer describing how to control the game. Let's see, where is this the right one? Oh yeah, here we go. The game's control setup is its most terrifying element. The left analog stick moves you forward, back, and strafes right and left, while the right analog stick turns you and can be used to look up and down. Terrifying.
That it is. Oh my God.
That's how games control now. And back then it was called terrifying.
Oh God.
We'll have to talk about when we get to the Xbox my first experience with playing a shooter because it was a mess. But up next is the classic Nintendo 64 controller. I'm
Oh
really
yes.
really curious what you think of the Nintendo 64 controller.
It's it's so weird. I've never known. Like, I guess there probably isn't a correct way to hold it, but I've always wondered if there really was. Because I know like Super Mario 64, the only good way to hold the controller was like left hand on the middle one, right hand on the right one. So you could control like the camera with the C buttons, and then of course you have your left thumb on the movement stick. But I think other games are totally different with that.
Yeah, and Zelda too. Ocarina of Time, you needed to have your hand on the because the Nintendo 64 has three handles, which is so stupid. I hate the Nintendo 64 controller. I'm gonna say that right now.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the weirder ones out there. It didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't.
Yeah, I when I first played it, I don't remember what game we were playing, but I was so against the three handles. I was like, I'm holding it on the outside handles. I don't like that stick in the middle. I don't know why it's there, and so like I would just like quickly move my thumb over to the stick whenever I had to use it and put my hand back on the left one. Eventually, I obviously changed, but like my first time playing it, I was like, "This is stupid. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna let
There
Nintendo
were
control my life."
there were there were some games that like tried to change that whole thing. Like I think it was like Sin and Punishment made it so you had to hold like your left hand in the very far left one and your right hand on the far right one, and it was just the goofiest fucking. I mean, it played well, but like, God, that controller's just so weird.
Yeah, I never liked playing GoldenEye either because you use the stick to move around and then you use the left and right bumpers, triggers, whatever, to move the camera left and right. There's no aiming up or down. There is zero aiming up and down. When you fire your weapon, you it just like randomly shoots, and as you hit it more, it gets closer to the target. I believe that's how it works. It doesn't make any sense.
Perfect Dark was kind of the same way because it was like, I think it was like you held one of the shoulder buttons, and obviously you'd stand still, but you could aim in like all directions. But it was weird because like the camera itself wouldn't move; you would just aim like just the gun in different directions, and it was the goofiest, wonkiest thing on the planet.
The opposite of a fast-paced shooter because you'd have to stop moving to aim.
Exactly.
I heard that Perfect Dark had a control option where you could plug two controllers in, two Nintendo 64 controllers, and you'd hold the middle section on both sides, and so you could move and use the camera that way. But I don't know if that's true or not.
That sounds that sounds so cool and weird. I hope that's real.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like it'd be a terrible way to control, but it'd be better than the other way.
Yeah, how do you do anything? Because like. The only button you'd probably be able to hit would be like the Z button, like the little trigger button on the back.
Yeah, both Z buttons.
How would you do anything else?
I don't know. So I could be wrong, but I remember reading that, so I'm just spreading the information as if it's real.
What was also cool, or I shouldn't say cool, but different about the N64 controller was that the memory cards, if you needed like external memory, you connect those to the controller itself. Same with like you could plug in the like Game Boy reader thing to like read your Pokemon saves for like Pokemon Stadium and stuff.
Yeah, you could.
That was pretty.
Was that where you hooked the Game Boy cartridge? Would that go right into the controller?
There's some other adapter that came with Pokemon Stadium that you would pop your cartridge into that.
Okay.
But that adapter would go to your controller. Yeah.
We forgot another revolution of the Nintendo 64 controller, Rumble. It was the first controller to have Rumble, and you had to buy a separate little pack to plug into the back of the controller, and it made it so back heavy too, because it wasn't like in the middle it was on the very back of the controller, and it was this big chonky thing.
Did the PlayStation controller not have Rumble?
I don't think it did. I'm pretty sure it didn't. Let me Google it. Did PlayStation 1 controller Rumble? Because it's called the Dual Shock.
Yeah, unless maybe the Dual Shock was just the sticks. I don't know.
Let's see. Because let's see, Dual Shock. Okay, so it was the PlayStation 2 was the first one to have Dual Shock.
Ah, okay.
The PlayStation 1, let's see. But past games still could use it.
Okay.
Interesting. So yeah, it was just this big chonky thing that you would plug into the back. They had like all sorts of things you could plug into the back. There was a, oh gosh, it like gave your Nintendo 64 extra graphical power. Controller.
Oh, that was the expansion pack. That goes to the
expansion.
There's some other like that's part of like the console itself. I'm pretty sure there's like a little piece of plastic you just pop on there.
Yes. Weird. So weird. That was like
goofy console.
Yeah. And then speaking of goofy consoles, around that time was when the Dreamcast came out, I believe. And
the Dreamcast was 99.
I played the Dreamcast exactly once in my life. I went to one person's house who had a Dreamcast. Did you play a lot of the Dreamcast?
I played a little bit of it. I know there's somebody in the little tiny town of Chatsworth that did have a Dreamcast. We played like a lot of wrestling games on it.
Weird controller. Not a fan of it. What I think is interesting is they did the A, B, X, Y positions the same way that the Xbox controller does. before the Xbox. Like, it's pretty much the same layout as an Xbox controller, except it doesn't have the right stick.
And it had the cord on the bottom,
Yeah, it does have
which
the
I
cord.
always did.
What was the thingy that you could take out of it that had the little screen? What was that called?
Oh, those are the memory cards, the VMU. They had, like,
VMU. There we go.
you could what was sweet about those is that they had their own like built-in battery. So some games like Sonic Adventure, for example, you could like save your chows to it. 'Cause there's like a chow garden you could play, and then when you're on the go, you could take the memory card out and play like a little Tamagotchi.
It was basically a Nintendo Switch before the Nintendo Switch. Just
Basically.
significantly lower graphical fidelity, power, everything.
Just like a little Game Boy, basically.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it really was.
You couldn't do a lot, but it had like a D-pad and like A and B on there, something like that. But yeah, that was your memory card, and those were sweet.
So weird, so weird. The one game I played most on the Dreamcast at this person's place, whose name I don't even remember, that was the only time I ever hung out with them, was a Madden game. And, like, what's the fun of playing a football game, right? It's like trying to call plays to outsmart the opponent to, like, win, right? But these two guys had it memorized for which plays you could call and how long to wait before you would throw the ball to get a touchdown every single time. And that's all they did. And I'm like, this is stupid. And I was like, I'm going to run different plays. And they're like, why would you if you already know how to score a touchdown? I'm like, what?
I think I mentioned this earlier too. The Dreamcast thing had one stick in an era where like two sticks was becoming the thing, and that was just so freaking odd to me.
Yeah, absolutely. The Dreamcast was like in this weird place because its graphics were significantly better than the PlayStation and Nintendo 64 when it came out. Like, it blew them out of the water, and then it just didn't sell. I had that one person was the only person I've ever known that owned a Dreamcast.
Let me remind you for a second. So so in the PlayStation and 64 era, the Sega Saturn was the console then. The Dreamcast was supposed to be in like the PS2 and all that era, but it came before the PS2, and like it sold really well in Japan, but in the US, like, it was all right. But then people heard that PS2 was gonna have like a DVD player in it.
Oh
And they were like, I'd rather just wait for the PS2, and then damn it, that did them in. They should have put a DVD player in that fucking Dreamcast.
Yeah, that ended Sega as a console maker, which is sad because I like having more competition, but that allowed Microsoft to get in, I guess, which is cool too. Going to that era, I guess, the PlayStation 2 controller doesn't have really any difference, does it, to the PlayStation 1 controller?
Just Rumble.
Just Rumble. Yeah, that's right. They added Rumble.
Just Rumble. That's it. And it's black, actually. And it's black.
It's a good controller. I have no complaints about it. I don't mind the stick placement. Some people don't like the stick placement.
But it wasn't too bad to me either. Like, I played a ton of PS2 games. And I played like a little bit of the PS3. I mean, yeah, the sticks being right there isn't bad. But I kind of prefer them being apart a little bit. Yeah,
definitely. The Xbox controller, though, the original Xbox controller, what a freak. What an absolute freak. It's, I said it was like the Dreamcast controller, but I forgot that it's got the black and white buttons.
Yep.
What? Who decided that?
And they weren't even shoulder buttons, they were just like on the handle, kind of like.
They were so far up. They're literally look like they're just tacked on there. I could never reach them.
The remade one, one sec. The remade one was really cool, except yeah, I think that was the one I'm thinking of where they put the black and white buttons like on the handle or some shit like that. OG Xbox controller.
Oh yeah, they moved them down a bit. They moved them more closer to the handle. I just found that one. Then the start and select buttons are over there too. Oof.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that one was. That's the one I remember playing a bunch of. Like I'd go to my cousin's house and we'd play a lot of Halo and Jet Set Radio, and like that was about it. But yeah, that was a good one.
Really, really weird too, because like when you play Xbox games now, if you play them on like the Xbox Series systems, like what do you do if you have to hit the black and white button? I don't even know.
I'm pretty sure those equate to like the left and right bumpers. I
Oh,
couldn't
that could be. That could
which,
be.
which button is like which bumper, but yeah.
So, we're at the Xbox era, and I went to a friend's place to play Halo, and that was the first time I used the two sticks for camera and moving, and it was impossible. It was completely impossible. I was like, this is stupid. This is the stupidest way to control anything. None of it makes sense. Whenever I tried shooting at someone, I just shoot up into the sky. The only way I could kill people was camping at the bottom of a staircase, and when someone came around the corner, I would just shoot straight ahead and kill them. What do you remember your first time playing a shooter with both sticks?
Yeah, I remember. I wasn't as coordinated with the two sticks as I am now, so I would move my camera into one direction, and I'd proceed to walk, leaving my camera in that same direction. So I'd be like walking, my camera would be just like up in like one of the right corners or something. Like I wouldn't move both sticks at the same time, like like a coordinated person would. I would just be like, I'm gonna move the camera and like look at the floor, so I know whether or not I'm gonna like walk into a pit, and then I just die.
Yeah.
Get shot to death.
That's another thing that like kids these days don't have to deal with is we had to adjust to new controllers all the time. Like every time a new console would come out, we'd have to relearn how to control everything. Where like today, every shooter X/square reloads, Y/triangle switches weapons. It's all we've got it figured out now. But me and you lived through the experimenting phase where everyone was trying different things.
Yeah, I remember trying to play. What the hell was it? There was this game on the PS2 called Dark Watch, and it was like a vampire shooter. And I forgot what the hell the controls were for that, but it was a little bit different from like a regular, like how Halo and stuff did it. It was like a teeny bit different, but yeah, there was a lot of learning to do with that shit.
My first console that was purchased for me and was my games was the GameCube. What are your thoughts on the GameCube controller?
There's not a whole lot I can say about the GameCube controller that hasn't been said already. It's like
we haven't said any of it. We haven't said anything about it yet. All those other people's opinions don't matter.
True. Remember it being so like lightweight compared to like the Xbox controller and all those, and oh my god, the little C stick, it was so great because like it was there were only a few games I played on the GameCube where you had to use the little C stick to aim, but when you didn't have to use it, it was totally comfortable because like it didn't have those dumb like little crosshairs on the C stick was just great, and the triggers were really sweet because you could like almost flick them in all the way, and like some games would have like an extra function with that, like Mario Sunshine. Like if you held in the triggers but not all the way down, you could like still move and like shoot your water and stuff. God, what a controller! What a great controller!
The GameCube controller is the best controller ever made. I'm just gonna say it. Like the current Xbox controllers are fine. Like they're probably perfect. Like there's nothing wrong with them, but at the time, GameCube controller, best controller. Like it's like you said about the triggers. Another interesting thing that they did that hasn't been done, instead of the sticks being in a circle container area where you can just spin them around whatever, it was an octagon so that you could press the stick exactly forward, exactly to the right, exactly to the corners. That was so fun to spin around because it goes oh, so great. The the Z button, because they had that Z trigger in the 64. They were like, what do we gotta have a Z button. Let's just put it on the back right and put a little bump on it. It's so random.
A little pimple on it.
Little nipple on it. D-pad, perfect. I loved the layout of the A, B, X, Y button, because the A button was big. That was your main button. And then all you had to do was like roll your thumb left, right, or up to hit the other buttons. It was all like centered around the A button with everything else. Where like when I'm playing an Xbox game that uses all the buttons like Elden Ring, I've got it in the middle of everything, and I've got to finagle it around. Oh no, GameCube controller, best controller. And another thing that Nintendo revolutionized with their controllers was the GameCube had the Wavebird wireless controllers, baby.
It was actually, it wasn't like some shitty fucking third party, like what was the big third party back then? Mad Catz?
Yeah, Mad
Like,
Catz.
oh, their controllers were just the worst.
That was the era of third party controllers. Yeah, we should probably mention that after we talk about the Wavebird, because the Wavebird worked flawlessly. It was weird though, because they had like the big cubes that you plugged into the GameCube, and you had to cycle the little dial to select that it was in slot 1 or 2 or 3, and I think it went up to like 12 for some reason. But it worked great. I loved that. Was the first time we were unshackled from our consoles and we could just sit wherever we wanted.
And the batteries, like I think it was like what, 2 AA batteries, and
Yeah.
it lasted for quite a while actually.
Yeah, really great. Another good revolution from Nintendo. Did you what kind of crappy third-party controllers did you ever have?
Oh man, okay, so I got a great story about one. So I had this one like translucent white Mad Catz controller for the GameCube, and I remember I would use that for whenever my brother played with me, but it was either the X or the Y. No, it was the Y button. The Y button got like really loose to the point where it would constantly toggle whatever the Y button was. Like if you were playing Luigi's Mansion, it would constantly toggle the map on and off. And I was like, God, like little what, 10-year-old me, 15-year-old me was like, fucking damn it. And I like jammed some gum into that button so it would stop fucking doing the map. And then I beat Luigi's Mansion, and I was like, well, shit, I can't use this button for much else. And fuck Mad Catz.
I can honestly say I don't think we ever bought a third-party controller. For the one hand, I was an only child, so we didn't need second controllers, but yeah. I know family members and friends always had them, and they were so bad. The sticks never worked right, buttons stuck everywhere. They always had a turbo button.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That's right, they always did have that fucking turbo button for no reason.
Oh, I just
Maybe
typed
for
in
shooters
Mad
like
Catz
that.
turbo button, and they're gross. There's so many. Or it was like a switch that you would flip so that you could hit a button real fast. It's so...
Oh. And I remember that one controller that I had for the GameCube, like the normal, like the original GameCube controller, like the thumbstick was great. It was all like rubber, had those little rings on it for traction. Oh, it was great. But the Mad Catz controller, it was just like all plastic. There was like one small ring of like rubber in the middle, but then like the very middle was like a little nipple of plastic. It sucked. It was awful. Fuck that controller.
Yeah, F that controller.
Stupid.
Before we get to the more modern controllers, I think it's time for an ad break. What do you think, Aaron?
Let's do it. Ad break.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Vandenberg Eggs. You haven't had eggs until you've had eggs from the Vandenberg farm. The Vandenberg farm has over 7,000 chickens that free roam. No cages for these chickens. They wander freely over 37 acres of woodlands. They have their own society. They have schools, hospitals, their own culture. They make music. These are free chickens. What?
They have a currency.
Yes, they have a currency. They protect the eggs with their lives, and the Vandenberg family hires Navy SEALs to go in and retrieve the eggs for the consumers who are you. These are high quality eggs. They are stolen from their homes. and it's a never-ending war over this acreage for these eggs. Vandenberg eggs, you won't find any better.
I love it.
Back to the podcast. Thanks, Vandenberg eggs.
Yes, thank you. For all your sacrifices. Sorry, go ahead.
For all your sacrifices. The next controller I had was the PlayStation 3 controller, and that was it's weird because they went from the PlayStation 1 controller was pretty perfect, and then they didn't change anything with the PlayStation 2 controller, and then
Except, hey, they added vibration.
they added vibration, but then with the
Don't forget
PlayStation
that.
3 they removed the vibration in the first generation of PlayStation 3 controllers. They literally said gamers don't want vibration, and we were all like, yes we do. And they eventually had to add it back in, but those first ones were so light because there was no rumble in them. It had the 6-axis where you could turn it and tilt it and stuff. It wasn't like the Wii where you could swing it around. It could only sense which direction it was facing. And it had the worst triggers I've ever experienced in a video game controller. It's hard to describe, but they were like these flimsy things that like worked on a hinge. It wasn't like a button that you pressed. It was like a hinge that you would squeeze in. You would flip it back and forth. It was so bad that like all the shooters that came out for the PlayStation would use R1 and L1 for your zooming in and shooting, because the triggers were just unusable for shooter games.
For that, wasn't it basically just like it was the exact same as the R2 and L2, but yeah, they were like a little hinge basically.
Yeah, it was just a weird hinge thing.
Yeah.
The Xbox. Wait, what? What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I had some controllers written down. I wasn't paying attention to my list. I had some controllers written down that I totally forgot about, but I can wait till the end.
No, do it now.
Oh my gosh. Tommy, look up the controller for the Atari Jaguar. You won't regret it.
Okay. Atari Jaguar.
It's the worst piece of garbage ever.
I don't know, because I just remembered another one that we have to talk about. Oh my gosh. Okay, so wait, what's the is the Jaguar a home console that you plug into the TV?
Yeah, it was like it was in the generation of like the Super Nintendo and stuff, I'm pretty sure.
It's got a number pad on it.
Yeah, so what's really cool and stupid about that was like some games would include like a little cardboard cutout that you would put over that, and they would tell you like
Shut
what buttons
up.
do what. Yeah. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, the different buttons would do certain things, like, and it would just be the dumbest garbage too, because there's already 6 base buttons. Like you don't need those number buttons for anything else.
No, and it's just like it's like the Xbox 360 keyboard that you could plug into it.
Yeah, basically.
What a bizarre
Um,
thing.
I know there were some games that used that, and it was just they didn't do anything at all. And the next one I have for you is the Amiga CD32.
32.
This was
Classic,
a console. It was
classic Omega. Oh no, that's not cool. What? Wait, that's the. Oh, it's got a play pause button, and ooh, that's an ugly looking D-pad. Wait, what are these buttons? What do the buttons say? I'm genuinely asking, what do the colored buttons say? I can't read it.
Here, let me get mine pulled up. Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, so the red one looks like a little download symbol. The blue one is like a square, like stop. The yellow is, I think it's supposed to be like, no, it's not rewind. It's like go back, I think. And then the green is, it says 1, 2, 3.
I just want to say that again because I found one that actually explains what the buttons are. Yes, the red one is a down arrow with a line underneath the arrow. The blue one is just a square. It's just a square. and that's on the right side, so it's the opposite of the PlayStation. The red button is on the bottom. The yellow button is on the top, and it's like a rectangle with an arrow going around. And the arrow is pointing on the top to the right. And then the green button, which is on the left side, says 1, 2, 3, and the 1 is on the top, the 3 is on the bottom left of the 1, and the 2 is on the bottom right of the 1. Wait, no, it's different. It's different based on different controllers. I was looking at a different one. Are you looking at the weird U-shaped one?
That's the one I was looking at. Yeah.
Okay, so the U-shaped one, they're arranged differently, but they're still the same buttons. What is this? Who made this?
That was
Amiga.
Like Panasonic or one of those.
Oh my gosh, horrible.
Oh, and yeah, my bad. Oh, then the last one I have for you is the TurboGrafx 16.
TurboGrafx 16 controller. It's like it reminds me of an NES controller. It looks like it's got the little rubber nubs. But what are the? Oh, it's a 1 and a 2 instead of A and B. What are the? What are the sliders?
It was basically like Turbo again, kinda. It was like
Oh, because it's the TurboGrafx.
what the hell was the actual word for them? Oh, I forget. I was just watching a video on like collecting for those. God, what the hell were those called?
I don't know. I don't know.
Skip it.
Okay. One I thought of just now. Obviously, I've never touched. I probably will never touch. Is the Virtual Boy controller. Have you seen the Virtual Boy controller? Who needs dual sticks when you can have dual D-pads? That's the only controller I think that exists that has 2 D-pads, one on the left and one on the right.
And it's just so weird looking. It's like if they took the like the Dual Shock, and then they just kind of like stretched it out like it was like silly putty. Like they just really stretched it. Like they warmed it up and stretched it, and then it was like just
yeah, really ugly. Speaking of ugly, do you remember the Boomerang PS3 controller?
Yeah, the prototype one?
Yeah, the prototype. I mean, obviously prototypes are like... they're all weird, but this one was like seen as legitimate, and it is hideous. I am glad that they didn't go with that design, because it's like the longest handles you could think of, and in the grossest shape. Like, it does not look like something you can hold and use.
Where are the triggers at?
I think it's only got one. I can't see the back, but it looks like just from looking, it looks like it just has one. I know there aren't very many images of it.
Yeah, what might have been... That would have been a whole console generation of that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I know a lot of people consider the Xbox 360 controller to be the best controller, and I disagree with them.
That one was pretty good, though.
Yeah,
honestly.
it was very good.
Comfy and cozy.
The only issue I have is it's the worst D-pad ever made.
Oh, they made it better later on, actually, because like, rather than making it like one big circle or whatever it was, they made it so you could like rotate it, and it would like protrude more like a traditional D-pad, so you had like just up and down and left and right.
Was that on the 360 or was that the Xbox One?
That was the 360, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I'd only played my college roommate's one. Oh, you're right. Yeah, it was. Wow. That's a very modern-looking Xbox 360 controller. But that first D-pad, it was basically just like a big circle, and it was just squishy whenever you would press it in a direction. It's just real squishy, which you don't want in controllers. I don't know if you... It's surprising because... I have one in the garage, and whenever I pick up the controller, I'm like, oh, this actually feels kind of weird, just because I've been using the Xbox One and Series X controllers, but it actually feels weirder in the hands than you would expect because of the handles.
You walking out to your garage sometimes,
Just for no, you walk out to your garage and you pick up the controller and you're just like,
I just stand there and I'm like,
Instead of-
yep. I just stand there and I'm like, oh yeah, this was the
oh
time.
baby, and then you put it down and you leave.
The door opens and my wife walks in and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I throw it down. And I'm like, I'm looking at porn." She's like, "Oh, thank goodness! I thought you were touching the 360 controller again."
God, how many times have we talked about that? Ooh, here's another one that should be not really like a sin, but like it's just weird. Do you remember the Ouya? Is that how you say it? The Ouya?
Oh my gosh! When they at first announced the Ouya, I was a believer. I was
It's just
like, "This is a good idea. This is going to be really cool." And
Wasn't it
wasn't.
just all mobile games or something?
Yeah, it was. It ran the that day and age's Android, so it was the same. It was the same exact interface as a phone, and it ran those exact. Like you could just open up the Android store on there and play and download those games. And
Man, I'm having flashbacks of Android ice cream sandwich.
yeah, all
Those were
those
good
games.
days.
They had the idea was there was like 3 options when you first opened up the console. It would be play, purchase, or create, and you were supposed to be able to just create games right on the console and then put them up in the store.
What the hell?
But that never came to be. And the buttons are stupid. It's the Xbox 360 layout, but the buttons are O, A, U, and Y that spell out Ouya, and it goes in a counterclockwise. The worst part I remember hearing was that you had to take. It was really So the batteries went in the handles, and you would have to take the left and right tops of the controllers off. You would peel those off to put the batteries in, which you don't want to be.
Like the actual top, like the whole faceplate, like
The whole
cover?
faceplate, yeah, but it would be the left and the right because the middle stayed still. So you would have to maneuver it over the stick and the buttons when you took it off.
God, what a time!
Yeah, and that was big. It was like the biggest Kickstarter of the time when it came out, and then it never took off. What a shame. Back to the era we were in, the Nintendo Wii controller, which we have talked about at length, and there's not much else. There's genuinely not much else we can add. Motion controls, the most insane button layout you can think of. A speaker in it. That was the first speaker, but insanely revolutionary for other competitors and for themselves because they stuck with those motion controls through and through. Like you even used the Wii controllers on the Wii U when that came out, which was awfully confusing to me as a consumer because they revealed the Wii U and they showed the tablet, and I was like, whoa, so everyone's going to have that tablet? And they were like, no, only one per system. Only one person can use the tablet. And I'm like, what? But who, what? Did you have a Wii U?
I do have a Wii U still, actually.
You have it. Tell me about that. I've never touched one. Tell me about the tablet controller.
Honestly, it's not bad. It's kind of cool because you don't have to play it on your TV. You can just play whatever you want, on the little tablet, like the gamepad. And like I bought it because I wanted to buy a shit ton of the virtual console stuff because it has tons of N64. Yeah, it has DS games on it because you can play.
Is it really?
You can use the little the touch screen on the little tablet for the bottom screen. Oh, it's so cool, and it has tons of GBA games. Not to get too much into the Wii U, it's a shame it didn't work out, but it's super slow sometimes to load games, or even just to even the home screen from a game. It takes just forever. It's slow, but otherwise, it's the buttons are all fine. It's weird the control sticks are so far apart, obviously, because the tablet's also really horizontal, but it ain't bad.
I think the Wii U was a fantastic idea that had so many possible creative ways to play games, and I haven't told the story about when the Wii U came out on our podcast, have I?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I was in college at the time, and I was taking a video game journalism class in school, which was super great, one of my favorite classes. And one guy got the Wii U when it first came out, and so like the next day we had the class, everyone was like swarmed around him, and we were like, "What's it like? Tell us everything." And he said that it was incredible. He said it was amazing. He was like, "This is going to revolutionize gaming," because all he had was Nintendo Land, and he was like, the way that you can do two-player games is incredible, because one player can look at things on their screen and they're playing like a totally different game than the second player who's using the TV. And I remember Zombie U, you had to, whenever you wanted to open the menu and look at your inventory, it would, the game on the screen would like pause or whatever, and you'd have to look down at the tablet. Well, it wouldn't pause. That was the thing, was it wouldn't pause. You would look down at your tablet to rearrange things, and there were still zombies that could come and get you on the main screen. Or for a lot of games, it was just a map. But still, that's really cool to have the map at all times for you to just look down on. I thought it was a neat idea. I'd love to touch one someday.
I'll head on down to bring shit for you. And yeah, you can feel all over it, man. It's not bad. Like it's kind of clunky and like unwieldy sometimes, but it's not bad. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the Xbox One controller, which I think is Microsoft's PlayStation 1 controller, where they really just nailed it, and it's going to be their design that they use going forward. That one had a better D-pad, right? Was that the Xbox One?
Yeah, yeah. It was only 4 directions, and it was much clickier.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
not bushy at all.
Have one of those. Yeah, and it had like the handles had some grippies on it, which felt real good. But they got rid of the start and select button, which is going to get it negative points for me. They instead have it be the hamburger button and the 2 rectangles button. I don't like it. Don't like it at all. Because I still, to this day, can't remember which one is which. I have to look down at the controller whenever it says press this button.
I remember the start. I always remember that start is the 3 lines, because whenever our kid plays the Xbox we have downstairs, he always just says, press the 3 lines to start, press the 3 lines to pause the game, press the 3 lines, save it, quit, all that stuff. So I still call it start and select them.
Yeah, because press the 3 lines, just instead of saying press start. It was an unnecessary change.
It doesn't serve any other purpose besides being press. Oh my god! Besides being start and select, like why fix it if it ain't broke? Like it's
no. Speaking of fixing what ain't broke, the PlayStation continued their tirade of we have to add things and put a giant touchpad in the middle of the PlayStation 4 controller.
Oh yeah.
I've only played a PlayStation 4 once, and I didn't even use the touchpad because the game didn't use it. But it feels nice. It's got a nice smooth texture, and it clicks in. The whole thing clicks in, which is weird, but it just feels so out of reach.
It's a PS4 touchpad. Yeah, it'd be cool if they made it smaller and not, so out of the way. And it'd be cool because you could use it like a mouse wheel to like switch weapons, or like I guess like a trackpad. Basically, just use it to like rearrange your inventory or like goof around on the screen or something. They could have done a whole lot more with that than they did. I think it was only used in like Until Dawn, and like that's it.
And it was used as the map button for like every game where you would just touch it and it would bring up the map. It's one of those things that was like, I feel like it was a problem that didn't need to be solved. Like, in the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era is when control schemes really became standardized, and everyone knew exactly what button did what. And so then they add this big touchpad in the middle, and no one really knew what to do with it. There was really, nothing really you could do with it.
They had that light bar on the PS4 controller as well, and that was kind of a cool idea because it meant you could
use that to signal, when it's low on battery or like you're low on health in a game, but like at the same time, you can just do that in the game.
Yeah,
screen.
yeah. It was for motion stuff too, and they put the speaker in. They put a speaker in it so that sounds could come out of it, which is cool. I like speakers and controllers. I like it's good for horror games because they can make whispers come at you.
Yeah, remember that now. What the fuck game was it? It was it was one of the no, never mind. I'm thinking of there was one Fatal Frame game on the Wii U, I think, and there was a speaker on the gamepad, I'm pretty sure, and yeah, it would just like make spooky sounds whenever you went to like grab an item or something stupid.
Yeah, not a fan. Wouldn't be able to do that. One controller I want to talk about before we get to modern day controllers is the Steam controller. Have you ever held a Steam controller?
Never held one. Let me see if I remember this one, because it sounds familiar.
I own one, so I will be able to describe it in great detail. It is a controller made by Valve, the Steam
Oh my
people.
god, I remember that.
It was like they designed this to be like the last controller that ever needed to be made. Like it was supposed to last for decades. Like this is the last controller you'll ever need. And I kind of agree with them. It's an incredible piece of technology. Like where other controllers are like we're arranging the buttons and sticks so that you can use all the buttons and sticks. Steam was like, we're going to make a controller filled with so much technology that even we can't keep track of it all. Like, it has its own menu in the Steam store, and you can tweak and change literally hundreds of settings. Like, it's got 2 touchpads on the top, 2 big circular touchpads, only 1 stick, and then A, B, X, Y. It's got a left and right trigger, which do the clicky, like the GameCube controllers, and then it's got another bumpers. And what's really neat is like the proper way to hold this controller. We haven't really talked about this, but with like every controller, I have my index fingers on the triggers. Is that what you do too?
Yeah. We're on the bumpers.
Yeah. For the Steam controller, you have your middle fingers on the triggers and your index fingers on the bumpers. That's the proper way to hold it. And it just feels right. It just makes sense. I know that sounds weird, but it feels good. And it's got 2 little paddles on the back, which I never use because I don't like how they feel. It's got motion control, tons of motion controls, and the touchpads are insanely sensitive and good feeling. Like you can set it so that the outer edge of the touchpad does different things than the inner section of the touchpad. So you can have it be where like if you touch the outer pad, it does something. If you press down on the outer pad, it does something. If you go from outer pad to inner, it does something. You can like customize it like crazy. I saw one person do where it was a shooter game, and they had it so that when they tilted the controller to the side, the character in the game would hold their gun up, and then they could switch around attachments on it. Or only recently, like within the last year, people discovered a new control type that you could do for shooter games called flick stick. Have you heard of flick stick?
Oh, skate.
No, not like that. Not like that. Not like skate. It's so you hold the controller normal, and then the left stick, it decides whether you're looking. If you press the stick forward, you're looking straight ahead. If you press the stick down, you immediately look directly behind you. And if you press it left, you immediately look to the left. And what you do is, like, if someone's shooting at you from behind you, you push the stick down, you're immediately looking behind you, and then you use motion controls to aim where you want to go. It's insane, but it's like the fastest way to control a shooter with a controller that isn't mouse and keyboard.
No, yeah, I feel like they should do that kind of control scheme with the Switch Pro controller, but we'll get to that guy.
Yeah, you totally could. What else was there? There was There was something else I wanted to mention about it, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, the Steam controller. Oh, I after everything I say about it, I only used it for 2 games on my PC. I use it for Rocket League because with the triggers being clicky, I have it be where I pull it in a little bit for the gas and then I click it all the way in for boost. That works really well. That's super fun. And then I use it for Civilization because I just use the touchpad to move the mouse around and move the map around. It just feels really good. There are small use cases where it's like the best control scheme for things, and I love it. And they stopped making it. You can't buy anymore. They stopped producing them.
Why? They said it was going to be the best controller on the planet.
I know. And then they made it. Everyone who wanted one bought one. And then they were like, well, I guess no one else wants one, so we'll stop making them.
Typical. That's not like Valve. I mean, with everything else. Like, oh man, people sure do love that Team Fortress 2. Man, they're still playing it here in 2022. Better stop updating it.
Or the Steam Link. I have a Steam Link too. And they one day they were just like, yeah, we're going to stop making it, but we got to get rid of this inventory, so you can just buy them for $1.
I don't think I've ever seen the Steam Link before, but
I have one of those too. I was really into buying everything Steam for a while. It's just a little box that you plug into your TV, and then it streams from your PC to the TV.
like the PlayStation TV or whatever.
Yeah, exactly like that. And I've never been able to get it to stream good. I don't know if my internet isn't good enough or what, but I've just never. It's never been the same as just playing it on the PC. But we're talking about controllers, and
Right.
what modern controller should we start with? Sony, PlayStation, or Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo?
You're talking about like the newest gen.
The
consoles?
newest gen.
The only one I have experience with, well, I guess I've never touched the PS5 controller, so we can start with that and get that out of the way.
Yeah, good idea. What do you think of how that one looks? That was controversial when it came out, with just how it looked.
There's so many articles I've read. Like for this, I looked up a thing for like best controllers ever made to see how other people thought of the GameCube controller. And so many thought that the PS5 controller was like the absolute best they've ever held in their hands.
Really?
And I mean, the different the regular white one just looks so odd. Like it reminds me of just like there's like a bipedal robot, but like the other colored ones, like if it's like black or like blue, like any other color looks kind of alright.
I still think they look weird. The white controller is Mass Effect the controller. That thing fits.
Yeah.
You could throw it into a Mass Effect game and it would look exactly like it belongs.
Or like I'm getting kind of like Titanfall vibes, kind of. It reminds me of yeah.
It's an attempt at a modern controller, but they went too far into the future, and we're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, and it's like it looks kind of cool in other colors. The white one, like you said, yeah, it's like an uncanny valley kind of thing. Like it looks like something. Like it looks like what it is, but it doesn't at the same time. It's so odd.
Yeah. It looks like they made the touchpad a bit smaller, which is good. But the big draw was the what do they call it? DualSense. The DualSense part of it, which I really want to feel someday because people say that it's like revolutionary, but also like destroys your hands. Like when you play a Call of Duty, it shakes with the bullets going, and it'll like change based on how many bullets are left in the gun until it goes out. Or when you fire a bow, it has like the triggers have resistance, and so it like you pull it part way, and then eventually it'll just snap. And it'll snap down, and it apparently feels really good. But Aaron and I have never felt the warm touch of a PlayStation 5 controller.
Pleasure of sleeping with one on my bed.
Someday.
I remember it wasn't. I guess this is kind of different, but like wasn't the Xbox One controller like heavily touted for having was it called haptic feedback in the triggers?
Yeah, in the triggers. And let me tell you, it is not haptic feedback. The triggers just vibrate. That's it. The only game I've seen use it is Forza, and it'll they'll vibrate based on if your like tires are sliding, which is genuinely helpful because like it starts as a little vibration and it gets to a lot if you lose control. So I can actually use that to tell how to better take turns, but it's not. I wouldn't call it haptic. It's just varying strengths of vibration.
Oh man, I could talk all day about the Switch Pro Controller though.
Do it.
If we're gonna have one.
I'm gonna
Oh,
go.
man.
I'm gonna go grab mine quick so I can have it in my hand while you talk about it.
Oh, I've got mine too. So, I mean, I like the Xbox One controller, but my hands, especially my left hand, because I fucked up the tendon in it a while ago. My hand does tend to get kind of crampy on the Xbox One controller, but like the Switch Pro controller, I could hold that thing I get Edward 40 hands, 2 of these, and never get sick of it. I like that the what is it? What do they call it? The HD Rumble. Every now and again, like some games use it like in really like cool ways. Like what was it? Zelda used it for like when you throw bombs, it would kind of like rumble when your bomb explode, or like what's also cool is like in Smite, your controller will kind of like it will use the HD Rumble in a cool way when you're low on health. It'll like kind of be like a heartbeat, but not like other older games used to do. It like actually uses the HD Rumble to like in different strengths. But no, then the D-pad is great. Like
Yep.
I kind of, if there's one complaint I have about the Switch Pro controller though, it's that the sometimes when I'm trying to press like the plus or select for pause or minus for start or select, I'll sometimes hit the home button or the fucking capture button, and I have so many accidentally taken captures because I just want to open the map or some shit.
Exactly the same with me. I have a couple complaints about the Switch Pro controller. That's absolutely one of them because those home and plus minus buttons don't stick out. They're flush with the face of the controller, so you kind of you can easily accidentally hit them. I don't like that the handles are of a different material and disconnected from the rest of the controller. I just don't like how it feels. I'll be honest. I don't like that line between them. Like ours is kind of starting to not separate, but I can just feel the difference, and I don't like it. I don't like ZL and ZR as the trigger buttons. That's just it doesn't make sense in my brain. What I am noticing though is when I flip it backwards, the letters are facing you. That's neat.
Oh.
They're not upside down. And I can never get used to the Xbox is my controller, so the A, B, X, Y being reversed always gets to me every time.
I get that, yeah. I always like I don't ever keep track of like the actual like letters on the buttons. I also remember like their positions, because like any game that goes from like Xbox to the Switch, it'll be like the same. Well, no, I guess because the button positions are different on the Xbox. It's A's on the bottom.
Yeah, they're flipped. A, B, and X and Y are flipped.
Forget what I said then. Fuck that. All I'm thinking of. No, the otherwise, yeah, the Xbox like Series X / Xbox One controller is like it is really good though.
They're different, the Series X and Xbox One controllers.
Yeah, because isn't I know that they added like the extra grippies on like the Series X.
Yes.
And then also had the share button in the middle, which is cool to have it like just one button.
Yeah, the grippies, it's got grippies on the back of the triggers and like a tiny little bit on the bumpers, but I will say I've had mine for 2 years and the grippies on the right trigger are basically gone on the bottom, so I've got no more grippy there. Those wear away after time. And the sticks have little grippies around the outside, and once again, like just on some edges of it, they've wore away, which is to be expected. I'm not expecting them to last forever, but it's just something to take note of.
Same. And one thing I forgot to mention too is like with the original Xbox One controller, the bumpers were like super fragile. Like I remember
Really?
at first, yeah, I remember like at first they were cool, but I played like a lot of Killer Instinct back in the day, which really used those bumpers. And I abused the crap out of them, and they just stopped working. And I have like maybe two original Xbox One controllers where like it's either the left or the right bumper that just stops working. So
Huh.
if you're playing Minecraft and you're trying to cycle through your toolbar, you have to use the opposite one and just kind of like go all the way right, and then but the newer like Xbox One and Series X controllers though they redid those bumpers and they're far better. They're really good.
And it's slightly smaller. You don't notice it when you like first hold it, but if you switch between the Xbox One and Series X controller, they are slightly smaller. I can't tell you in what direction. You can just tell when you hold it.
Also, I love that they made the newer like I guess the current gen like Series X controllers backwards compatible with the One X. Like I think that's
Oh, are they really?
badass. Yeah, like I have two Series X controllers connected to my OG Xbox One. And yeah, there's no issues at all. They work just like any other one controller. It's great.
I do the opposite. I don't have an Xbox One, but I have an Xbox One controller that we use with the Series X.
Yeah.
360 controllers don't work though. Oh, we got a. Gosh, I just looked to my left and I saw my PSP.
Oh, we're talking about handhelds now?
I mean, we might as well. Do
Yeah,
those
there's
count
one
as
big
controllers?
Why not? They have
Okay.
controls on them.
Then we got. Okay, wait. First, we still need to talk about the Joy-Cons with the Switch, because we haven't talked about them yet. That's like the main control method that everyone has. Hot garbage. The Joy-Cons.
Fuck those sticks.
The
Fuck
sticks.
the D-pad.
Sticks are bad. D-pad is bad.
So squishy. Like it's not a real D-pad, and like it'd
No.
be fine if it was firmer, but it's super squishy.
I love the idea though that you can turn it on its side and use it as a controller. That's a super cool idea, but it makes both options feel bad because not one of them is like the main way to control it. HD Rumble, awesome. Love HD Rumble. And I like
Motion controls.
yeah, motion controls are good. It's got an infrared camera on the bottom, which like they added that before having any games that do anything, so they were really thinking of the future. One thing that's used for is when you play Ring Fit Adventure. You can hold your thumb on it and it measures your heart rate, so it can tell how much of a workout you're doing. Sure.
Oh, one thing I've always wondered about not just the Joy-Con, but like the Pro Controller as well. That ring around the home button, it feels to me like there should be like a little LED.
There
but
is.
It's never done it. Like, what does it do? Like I've seen. What?
I was gonna say I think it only does blue. I could be wrong.
Like I've seen videos on. Like I've wondered. I've been kept up late at night about this. Like I just woke up in sweats. What does that ring do? And I've seen videos where people will crack open their Joy-Cons or controller, and they'll get it to actually work. And I mean, I guess it does work, but like they'll keep it activated so it glows all the time. So like it does. There is for sure an LED in there, but like. What does it do, Nintendo? Like, make it work.
Remember when they were like, "Hey, we added a Bluetooth, or we turned on Bluetooth headphone capability. It was in there the whole time. We just decided to turn it on after 5 years."
Oh yeah, that's true.
The Switch is such a weird console. I love it. It's incredible, but it's so weird.
It is really weird.
Yes.
Free that LED, Nintendo.
Free the LED. I guess we got to go to handhelds. So yeah, the first I guess is the Game Boy, right?
Pretty sure. Yeah, we're not counting anything before the Game Boy. That's fuck them. They're not real handhelds. They're not real pro gamers, I guess.
No. My grandma had a Game Boy, so I got to play a Game Boy every time I went to her house in Minnesota. So that was like 3 or 4 times a year. 4 AA batteries in that bad boy. That was a chunky boy.
That was a chunky boy. Holy cow! I bet that felt like holding just an absolute brick. Just an actual
yeah,
like.
literally. And every time it runs out of batteries, you gotta find 4 AA batteries to replace it with. But yeah, it just had a D-pad, A, B, worked totally fine.
Yeah. Especially, yeah, because everything was side. Well, I guess you couldn't do anything besides a side scroller, obviously. Forget what I was gonna say.
My grandma had Top Gun for the Game
The
Boy.
hell?
Yeah, Top Gun. It was, oh my gosh, so the Game Boy graphics were very limited. Imagine playing a dog fighting. It was an actual dogfighting game where you would fly through the air and try and shoot other jets. And it was literally just little blips on the screen that you could see every once in a while. And it was
Ugh.
really,
It
really
was all
hard to
puke
play.
green. All puke green.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was puke green. What a weird choice, but fun little thing.
Ooh. And then we go to the there were like other iterations of the Game Boy in between that and the Color. Like there was like the Game Boy Light and like the Game Boy Pocket. Yeah. They were just smaller, pretty much.
Yeah,
One had a backlight.
Yeah, Game Boy Color was just the same as a Game Boy except slimmer, and everything was in color.
Yep. And I mean it was cool. I miss the days of hooking up the old connector cable and like playing with people that way, but man, that was so cumbersome. Like, hey, do you want to trade Pokemon? Nope, forgot my cable. Well, fuck.
Oh, and then all the different... It was just a mess of options, because they had the mystery gift, too. Oof. Oof. But then...
And you could only evolve Haunter to Gengar by trading
Yeah,
it, and it's so
or-
stupid.
Match
So
up to
stupid.
Machamp, yeah. They knew what they were doing, that Nintendo. But then, the Game Boy Advance, which probably has the biggest library of any handheld system.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, and they added the left and right bumpers, or L and R buttons. I never had the original Game Boy Advance, the wide one, but it looked super cool. I had the Game Boy Advance SP, which is a sexy sexy little thing.
Yeah, it was. The original Game Boy Advance was hell yeah. It was a chunky boy a little bit, but it was great. It was
No backlit screen either.
Oh yeah, that's
That
right.
wasn't until the SP. What does SP stand for?
Super Pro? I don't really know.
Game Boy Advance SP.
And then I remember with Pokemon Fire and Leaf Green, they came out with that wireless transmitter, so you could do things wirelessly, and that was just mind-boggling.
Special. Stands for special.
Oh, well, all right.
And then Nintendo went insane again and made the DS.
Don't forget about the Game Boy Micro.
The Game Boy Micro also existed.
Yep, it's the same though. Yeah, the
Which is
DS though.
The DS, man, I don't even know. Obviously, the touch screen and Street Pass, was that in the game with the DS or was that the 3DS?
That's the 3DS.
Okay, then I didn't say it yet. I never felt comfortable holding a DS because it just felt like it weighed just too much to hold it in your left hand and the stylus in the right hand.
The original one was just
Ugly.
it was so ugly. Yes.
Ugly as
Thank you
sin.
for saying something I couldn't. Yeah, it was ugly as sin for sure. It was just. Yeah, I remember like when they first revealed it and it looked kind of futuristic. I was like, oh, that's cool. It reminded me of like an old like Nokia like flip phone, but and then yeah, ugh.
I don't know why, but I didn't know. I never saw that original DS. I had gotten the DSi, and then I went to a cousin's house, and they had the original DS, and I was like, "What is this? Is this?" And they're like, "It's a DS," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And then they turned it on, and I was like, "Why does it look like this?"
Speaking of Nokia, yeah, you gotta check out the
The
Nokia.
N-Gauge.
Yeah, the little taco.
We gotta talk about the N-Gauge because that was a ugly thing. It was a phone slash game console, if you want to call it that.
That's exactly what it was.
And to switch games, you had to take the battery out, which is a choice. And instead of, like normal phones, you hold the screen up to your face, not with the N-Gauge. The talkie part and the speaker was on the top, so you had to hold it sideways up to your face, and the screen would face in front of you. Awful. Ugly thing. I don't even... Man.
Skip.
Skip.
Next.
The PSP came out after the DS, and I have one. I think the PSP... No, say what you're going to say first.
Say it's super ahead of its time, but please continue.
Massively ahead of its time. This thing has... The DS, I would say, had like Nintendo 64 level graphics, and the PSP had it was between PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 level graphics at the same time. But we're here to talk about the controls, and it has good L and R buttons that I'm hitting right now. D-pad, X, square, triangle, circle, all good. The stick was awful because it wasn't a stick. It's a little circle that slides left and right and around and stuff, and I lost mine at some point, so I just have a little nipple that I push around, and that digs into my thumb after a while. So why did you do that, Sony?
Which game was it? There was one. It was either a Metal Gear or like some other shooter game, but obviously you didn't have that like right stick to move your camera, so you had to use the D-pad to like move your character, and then the triangle, square, X, circle. Those were your like, stick basically, and that was a mistake.
It was like that for Battlefield. There was a unique Star Wars Battlefield game for the PSP, and yeah, it used the face buttons to control the camera. It still has start and select. It's got dedicated volume buttons, and it's got a little square button and a music button, which I don't remember those or what they do.
I also forget. I remember there being like a home button to go back to like the home screen.
Yep, home button. And on the side, the power button is super weird. It's a little thing that you flip up and then it goes back down to turn it on. But you can also press it down and it'll go into hold mode so that you don't accidentally hit any buttons while it's in your pocket.
That's right. And then let me grab mine real fast. I know there was there was like a certain model you could like connect to your TV, and you would use like the PSP on its own, like as a controller, like that was
yeah, you could use this as a PlayStation controller. I need to find what do you have your did you find your PSP?
Yep, I have it right here.
What game is in it?
I hope you can hear this. I'm gonna click it open. Hear that?
No, but I'll do mine when it's my turn.
Mine is Tactics Ogre. Let us cling together.
Ah, okay, ready?
Yep.
Again, I don't know if you heard it. I have Daxter.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did Jack and Daxter on there.
That's the only Jack and Daxter game I've ever played. I actually, when I found my PSP a few months ago, I found a cable that charged it. It's not the official cable. And Daxter still looks really good. It looks really good for being like a 15-year-old game on a handheld.
Yeah, there's a lot of games on there that look just crazy good for a handle. And they had movies that you could buy for it too.
You could buy full movies.
They looked pretty good actually on there.
The UMDs though, I had so many that I had to tape together because they were falling apart.
Oh god, yeah.
Yep. Universal Media Disc, I think is what it stood for.
Yep, that's right.
And then we had the 3DS, which did anything with the controls change between DS and 3DS?
No, they had the 3DS is just packed full of shit. Like I know it has was it stereo? It's like stereoscopic, so you can like move it all over the place and like you can tell.
That's right. It's got cameras.
It's got two cameras. It's got I think it's like the 3DS XL has it's got extra shoulder buttons. It's got two extra shoulder buttons. I forget what the hell they're called.
Wait, does it really? You're just making this up. Because my dad has the DS XL. He doesn't have the 3DS XL. I had the 3DS XL.
Okay, so there's L and CL, and then there's R and then CR.
Is that the new Nintendo 3DS XL? The one with the little nub?
Yes. Yep.
Ah, see, I had the old Nintendo 3DS XL. I didn't have the little nub. What did that nub work as a stick?
Yeah. Was was it Dragon Quest 8? Yeah, you can use that to control your camera. It's kind of finicky and hard to use. So I use it like sparingly, but you can also use it on Ever Oasis and like a few other games, and it works all right. I mean, I'd rather just use the L and R to move the camera, but it's all right.
I know I'm in the minority, but I loved the 3D effect. I had that thing on full blast whenever I could.
It's really really rad on the on Kirby Planet Robobot because you could like go in between like the foreground and the background, and that shit was sweet.
I liked the Pokemon battles. That's my 3DS was a Pokemon machine. That was it. And then the PS Vita. I've never touched a PlayStation Vita.
I haven't either. I've heard that it's really sweet though, because it's got like an OLED screen, which basically just means that every single pixel is backlit, so it's got better color. But whatever.
It's got the back touch. The back of the console, the handheld is a touch glass.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's sweet.
Yeah, so like Tearaway, I think was the only game that used it, and so you could like use your fingers to swipe on the back to make things go away on the screen.
Christmas.
And it's got two sticks, which is what the PSP really needed, two sticks. So it's good that they did that with the Vita.
Oh, wasn't it also touchscreen as well?
Yep. Really, I honestly think like really great system, way too expensive. The memory sticks were way too expensive.
Yeah. I remember that whole fiasco with the memory sticks just being way too expensive. They were a proprietary owned thing.
Yeah, you couldn't use standard SD cards or whatever. You had to buy the PlayStation Vita memory cards, which were like $60 each, I want to say. Just a mess. And yeah, so Sony doesn't make those anymore. And then they somehow skipped from the 3DS to the Switch, which is the biggest handheld jump in existence, I would say.
So too, because I mean, no, it really is. Because I mean, they've had like goofy like peripherals, like for the PS1, they had like, I guess it wouldn't be called a handheld, but they had like that little TV thing you could like strap to it, and it had like power to it as well too. But that's not a handheld. We're skipping that. We're going to the Switch now. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, the Switch as a handheld still doesn't feel good. The sticks are still bad. The D-pad's still bad. But it looks so good.
Another kind of big gripe I have about the Switch is that, like, you probably could have made, like, the vent a little bit bigger, too. Sometimes that thing does get, like, really hot.
Yeah.
And, well, that's, and like, my kind of by the vent, mine is, I guess it's starting, my gosh, I'm stumbling over myself. Mine's been starting to, like, kind of come apart there by the vent, but it hasn't gotten, like, bad at all. It's just...
I'm afraid to look at mine. I just know that with, like, more recent games, it's pushing that hardware as far as it can go.
It definitely is.
They're going to release Overwatch 2 on the Switch. How are they going to do that? It barely runs Overwatch 1.
Oh.
But that's how my wife plays it.
They what the hell was it? They somehow got Doom to run on that thing, and that still blows my mind.
Oh my gosh! And Wolfenstein.
Yep. And I was about to say BioShock, but I guess that was from like the 360, so that's not all that.
Yeah, I believe that one.
It's still pretty impressive though.
I forgot to mention. I was gonna say when we were talking about the Wii U. Obviously, the Wii U, known as the system that Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild came out on.
Oh yeah.
That's what it was made for. It was originally supposed to just be a Wii U game, and it took them so long. They were like, "Let's bring it to Switch too."
Yeah, this thing's on its way out.
No one owns any.
God, and it's still so sad. I could probably talk for a good minute about the Wii U, but man, it's so sad. Whenever I boot that thing up, I get kind of like teary. I'm like, no.
Oh, I'm
what
sure.
Could have been?
It could have been like it's weird because they tried too. They had tons of games out of the gate for it. Like they had the Mass Effects, they had the Batmans, they had EA Sports was in on it, Ubisoft was in on it, and then no one bought it.
Yeah, and they had Splatoon.
Yeah.
Bayonetta 2. They had freaking Deus Ex. Rayman.
They had exclusives. They had third-party support. They had the virtual console, but
Oh, the virtual console was so good on the Wii. God. That's not a controller, bro.
no. I had one more listed. I'm not sure if it counts. Keyboard and mouse.
Ooh,
It's something you
nice.
use. You
That's
use
still-
it to
that's still
control
counts.
video games.
It's true. You control your computer with it too. Like, yeah, that counts.
Yeah. I've never been a fan, but I do it anyways. It's taken me a long time to get used to it because different games use different buttons. I've never been able to play a game with a hot bar, like World of Warcraft or any of those, where like every single number. I don't know how people do that. And my mouse has 2 buttons on the thumb, but I'm only able to use one of them at a time because it gets confusing for me. The scroll wheel is nice for games, I guess. That's cool. What do you think about the keyboard and mouse?
I mean, yeah, I mean, they're all right. I don't own like a gaming PC, but the keyboard and mouse I have for my work computer, like they're keyboard and mouse, all right. They clickety clack and they clickety click, and my mouse wheel stopped working, so I can't say much about that. But yeah, I mean, I remember I played like maybe a little bit of Half-Life and like maybe a little bit of Battlefront 2 on PC like a while ago, and how I played with WASD and mouse like a little bit. Used the number pad to switch weapons. I think it was all right.
Yeah. It definitely has the most buttons of any controller possible, and I'm glad that people like it.
You really can't go wrong with any controller we've talked about or in existence, except for the Atari Jaguar and the
Yeah.
Amiga CD32. Those can just everyone's gonna toss those in a barrel and burn them. The other ones are great though.
Yeah, I'm looking back and like if you put any of these controllers in my hand, I can game with them, and that's what's most important, I suppose.
That's right. As long as they tell me which button is to shoot and which button is to jump. That's it. That's all I need.
Then you can play Mario Kart just fine.
Right? You could I could play 85 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh with just the D-pad and the A button just fine.
Yeah. So that's every controller that is important, and which ones are good and bad and weird. And if you know what's your opinion of controllers, tell us on Twitter and yell at us, yell at other people, do whatever. Send us an email. We got a Facebook page. You can find it.
Yeah, I mean, send us your like freakiest controllers because there's some pretty gnarly ones out there. Yeah, interact with us in any way, please. We're starving for attention.
Seriously, starving. What is going to be our topic in next week's episode?
Oh man, I've been bouncing between two. Let me find my tangents real fast. We're gonna go with game soundtracks.
I knew it. I knew this was going to be coming. I've literally been planning ahead.
Yeah.
Because I knew you were going to bring this up eventually.
A soundtrack is just a good soundtrack is just sometimes it's make or break for well, I guess it isn't. A good soundtrack is just it's so good.
And you know who almost never remembers music in video games? This guy, but I'm going to do my best. I do have some in mind that I really like, and they're good music. So, look forward to that, listeners. Anything else you want to say to the listeners, Aaron?
I mean, if you guys have anything else you want us to talk about, or have any like topics, any topics you want to hear us talk about and yammer on about, and then get sidetracked, and then slap ourselves back in a sense about talking about that topic. Again, we're starving for attention. Twitter, Gmail, Facebook that I keep forgetting I have.
And don't forget to buy Vandenberg eggs. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.